I came to the United States when I was 15 years old. So I went to high school and then graduated from high school, went to junior college. So all this time I was working part-time. I was working for mainly the immigrants in laundries and gas stations and whatnot. My first real job is after I got to the university, and I had a 6 months co-op, and I was working for this gentleman by the name of Paul Enter, and he became my mentor for many, many years. And it turns out that he's a pilot. He has a small plane. He's what we call a general aviation. And as I get to know him well, he would take me flying on the weekend. And it was an amazing experience. Then I learned that actually there are two kinds of license for a pilot, a general aviation pilot. One is called visual, and one is called instrument. And they are what you think they are. A visual means that you can only fly when you can see. Instrument is when you don't need to see, you're actually relying on all your instruments, your radars and whatnot. So a commercial license obviously has to be an instrument pilot. They can actually fly a 747 without actually ever seeing outside. But a general aviation pilot, typically 99% of them are visual. So they would actually have to, if they want to fly above the cloud, they would actually have to fly and find an opening if it turns out to be a cloudy day. If it turns out to be a sunny day, no cloud, no problem. But it turns out that there's cloud, then they have to find an opening, and they have to kind of fly through that opening so that they can stay above the cloud. So I asked him, I said, what happens if there were no opening? Then he says, well, then you lose your license, or you stay under the cloud. You can never fly through the cloud, because if they ever find out that you did, you would lose your license for life. So it's your responsibility to make sure that, number one, there's no cloud, and number two, there's an opening. I thought that pretty much summed up our practice. Our practice is about flying above the cloud. In this case, we don't call it cloud, we call it hindrances. And there's physical hindrances, and then there's mental hindrances. And our practice is really about that. It's about how to stay away from the hindrances, how to manage the hindrances. That's why we spend so much time working on the body, because until we can remove the physical hindrances, we couldn't start to work on our mental hindrances. And when we talk about the mental hindrances, we talk about the 5 hindrances: attachment, ill will, sleepiness, or what we call depression, maybe, and then anxiety, and then loss of faith. So those are the 5. The 2 that we need to work on from day one is depression and anxiety. Depression comes in the form of sleepiness. So you sit and you find yourself sleeping. You can't focus because you don't have chi, you don't have oxygen to your brain, your body is not in a good form. That's one of the major hindrances. So we do that by working on a chi. The other one is called the anxiety, where your brain is too active. Okay, so we think that our brain is a mind. Our brain is not a mind. Our brain is only part of our body. When your brain gets too excited, then your mind drifts away, and we call this the monkey's den. Okay, so that's all I have today, is really to kind of let you understand why we do what we do. Is about flying above the cloud. So when you feel that you're in a bad mood, and I used to use this example, I used to ask my students, well, how's the weather today? He said, oh, it's really bad. He says, no sun today. And then I said, well, how was it yesterday? He said, it was great. The sun was out. I said, you know what? The sun is always out. Your positive energy is always shining upon you. You can't see it because you have these hindrances. You have this black cloud. And so the meditation is about knowing what the black clouds, knowing the hindrances, and knowing how to remove it. Okay?